Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to today's webinar, Leveraging Sentiment Analysis for Targeted Messaging in Political Campaigns. My name is Crystal Rudick, Marketing Manager for iTracks, and in a minute here, I'm going to introduce today's webinar presenters and start the discussion with them. We're going to be chatting about political research, some really neat AI-enabled tools that all qualitative researchers can make good use of, and then at the end, I'm going to give you a little preview of some exciting new AI-enabled analysis and reporting tools that are coming out later this summer from iTracks. Before we get into the meat of the discussion, though, I do have a couple of housekeeping items to go over with you. First, if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A field in your Zoom panel, and we'll either answer them directly here in the webinar near the end, or we will answer them by a chat to you. And we have, I don't know if you can see, but Garnett is actually hanging out, sort of helping us answer those questions as well in the background there. So ask as many questions as you want, and we will get them answered for you one way or another. Second is just always the first question. Yes, we will distribute a link to the webinar recording to everybody who registered or attended the webinar, and then you are more than welcome to share that link with your colleagues. So with that, let's get started, and I'll introduce you to today's main presenters, Leon Bourner and Chad Bowie. Leon is an award-winning client development professional who has spent the last few years here at iTracks as the Director of Sales and Client Development. And as someone who gets to spend quite a bit of time with Leon here at the office, I can tell you that the times I see him most excited are when he's been able to work with a client and help them realize some kind of research or business goal. And one of his other favorite things is collaborating with clients to share their work, which is what we get to do today. Bringing me to our second presenter, Chad Bowie. So Chad is the founder and principal of the Bowie Group. He's an accomplished political strategist, marketer, opinion researcher, award-winning writer. He's worked with clients at all levels of government across Canada and internationally in the US and the UK. His direct response fundraising strategies have helped political clients across the continent raise more than $100 million and counting. And recently, his group won an esteemed Reed Award in the Best Canadian Direct Mail Piece category, as well as being nominated for Best International Firm. He has also appeared as a contributor for the National Post, the Toronto Sun, Chronicle, Herald, and more. And we are really, really happy to have Chad collaborating with us on the project that we did for this webinar and just in general as a qualitative researcher. So with that, let's get started. And I am going to start with Chad. So we're going to be talking today about an actual project that you did with self-identified voters ahead of the 2024 American presidential election. So can you give us a quick overview of the project and what it is you were trying to accomplish?
Sure. We wanted to establish a bit of a baseline for the presidential race in the United States before the campaign heats up into the summer and over the fall. We were particularly interested in gauging the perceptions of registered Democrats and registered Republicans on the top issues of the election, their opinions on their presidential candidates, Joe Biden, the incumbent, and Donald Trump, and how they feel about the independent candidacy of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And we also want to dive a little bit into what it might take for them to consider switching their vote from their preferred candidate to Kennedy instead, particularly where it's such a big part of the American political discussion right now. Who is Kennedy going to pull more votes from? Is it going to be from Biden or Trump? Well, we want to find out.
Great, and let's do a quick 60-second, 10,000-foot view on the results. What did we find out? Is there anything that surprised you?
I'll do my best to do it in 60 seconds. There's a lot that surprised me. For one, I was struck by the prevailing sense of pessimism and what we might even define as sadness, which I'm sure we'll get into. We talk more about the sentiment analysis part of the discussion. But a real sense of pessimism and not so much anger, more sadness when talking about the election. The Republicans who we spoke to were, for the most part, not particularly excited about Donald Trump, with some even describing stuck with him as their candidate. Nevertheless, I have to say the Republicans we spoke to, they will, I used the phrase earlier with Leon, they will crawl over broken glass to vote for Donald Trump in November, uh, because they view the status quo as being so unacceptable. And with Democrats, we also saw similarly a real lack of enthusiasm for Joe Biden. Participants did not hold back in expressing their views and concerns really regarding his age, his capacity, and some expressed the view that the Democratic Party, their party, may have gone too far to the left and may be alienating more middle of the road voters. Why don't we stop there, Crystal, and
Sure.
just show a couple clips? Maybe we can show the Republicans talking about Donald Trump generally, and Democrats talking about Biden generally, and then I'll tell you about what really surprised me.
Great. Let's start then with the Republicans talking about their general thoughts on Donald Trump. And can you see my screen?
On the downside, his character. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody out there who actually thinks he's a good person, but and also, I mean, he's just very polarizing, like an extremist almost. He just can't. There's no middle ground with him. On a positive side, I feel like his term of presidency was better for me than the last 4 years.
I would say his greatest strength right now is the experiences we've had for the past 4 years. You know, he has been president before, and you know, having this regime go by, we saw some kind of downsides in the lives of many. It's affected me definitely in so many aspects. Talking about my work line and everything. I would say his weaknesses. I could only think of one right now, and I think is the controversies he has been having, like his personality and some kind of issues and court cases going on up and down. His personal life too. I think he's kind of a loud person. Yeah, he just does what he wants to do and then doesn't think about how it might affect him or the party.
I'd say our energy independence while he was president and his work with the economy, building it up. We weren't involved in any wars, or the world was much more peaceful when he was president. Personally, I love all what he stands for, but I don't like him personally, really. But I mean, I think he does care about the normal people and wants everybody to succeed. Even if he's not very good at articulating it.
I think some of his strengths are, like we've mentioned before, like people remember his presidency. There's a lot of things they remember that they prefer and they like about the way things were, like what Mike said about no wars. And as far as weaknesses, you know, they have those signs like at a factory that says like X number of days since like an accident, you know, and it just feels like I'd just be like, oh man, can he just go like a week or two without some kind of like unforced error that will get seized upon by opposition that will then get blown up, and it's like, you know, you get frustrated by that.
Okay, so that is the Republican thoughts on Donald Trump. And while I queue up the Democratic voters' thoughts on Joe Biden, I do have some questions rolling in about the recruits. So I just want to let those people know we are going to be talking about that next. So we'll let you know where those participants came from and how they were recruited.
I think he has the experience to be the president of the United States. I think that he's had so much time dealing and navigating and understanding things that are well beyond my comprehension in terms of the things that happen globally outside of the United States. So I think that that's a plus. He does have the experience, which qualifies him to be the president. I think having that experience, he has the gift of articulating what he thinks is going to resonate with people. So it's that gift of gab that a lot of seasoned politicians may have. So that's two. If I wanted to articulate two things about him that concern me. One would be his age. As I get older, the closer I get to retirement, the more I want to retire. So I almost, sometimes I almost think that deep down inside, he doesn't want to win, because maybe he just wants to sit home and be with his grandkids and like live out the rest of his life without having to deal with being the president.
I would say two strengths is I know he brought down the cost of insulin. I would say another strength is, he's really working towards fixing the abortion problem. Negatives, I think he's kind of the puppet, to say the least, and people are pulling his strings. But he stumbles a lot, not just physically, but he's also he says things sometimes and I don't even know what he's saying. It's like he mumbles his words, and then he said the other day something about his uncle got killed by cannibals. I was like, what? And then the Pentagon had to come back and say that wasn't true. He just says things that I don't know if he has dementia now or what, but they're so out of left field. And then they say that he says things that are just lies.
Okay, so Chad, what surprised you most about those couple of clips that we just watched there?
Well, again, what surprised me the most is just the lack of enthusiasm that representatives of both parties, registered Republicans and Democrats, expressed regarding the candidate. But the single biggest thing, well, there's two things, but one of the two things that surprised me the most was the issue set. When we asked Democrats about the most important issue of the election, they largely drew from Donald Trump's issue set. So they mentioned things like the economy, inflation, national security, border security, and they referenced all of these things with a clearly pessimistic outlook. I think in the Democratic Party group, when we asked them what the top issue of the election was, not a single person made reference to access to abortion, which, if you're paying attention to Democratic Party messaging, appears to be an issue that the president is relying on his base rallying around. That would concern me if I were a Democratic Party strategist. Some of the other issues that surprised me were around the sentiments to do with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and particularly which voters were more likely to switch to him. But maybe we'll save that when we talk about a deeper dive into the data and the sentiment analysis.
Sure, sounds good. And yeah, I was actually lucky enough to be hiding out in the back room for these groups, so I got to witness that. And I believe there was a point where we commented that we were 30 minutes into the group before any social issues came up, even in the Democratic group. So they were really, really interesting to watch. So let's move on then. And this is perfect timing because Russell had a question asking, where did you draw the participants from? Let's talk about that recruit. Who were these people? How did we find them? And I'll go to Leon first so that you can tell us a little bit about the methods used in the recruit.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Crystal. Yeah, so we'll let Chad talk a little bit about more some of the design choices and the definition of the behaviors and characteristics of the audience. But I'll just talk a little bit about the how, right? So not only is it important to define our audience and try to find them, it's critically important that we vet and rescreen them to ensure that the right people are showing up at the right time, right? So the participants need to fit our demographic and behaviors profile and have access to the technology required to participate. You need to look out for imposters, right? There's a lot of bad actors out there in qualitative research right now. And that's why a video articulation requirement is so valuable as part of the screening process. We want to make sure that we do things like set appropriate calendar events and reminders, and have made we've made all this effort to find the right people and get commitments from them. Now we really need to make sure that they show up. So, we hosted a webinar on this a few months ago. Over the last 24 months, we've really evolved the way that we find people and we do these rescreening and articulation exercises with people to make sure, that we get the right audience for a researcher like Chad. And the real value of this, not only has respondent quality risen, but show rates have evolved to be about 90%, right? So we're getting 9 out of 10 to show, and thankfully, as part of our recruiting process, we always over recruit for an event like a focus group like this. So, those are my comments on how we find them, and I think we'll leave it to Chad to talk a little bit more about the who it is that we want in the room.
Sure, and I believe Adam actually used our internal panel for most of these participants, and then used the help of a screener that Chad helped to design based on who we wanted to find. So let's go deeper into that, Chad. With respect to the project design, can you tell us a bit about who you decided to recruit, how you organized them into groups, and why you made those design decisions?
Sure. This was a great recruit. iTrax recruited one of the best political focus groups I've done in a while. Just to echo what Leon had to say there. This is a really solid recruit. We wanted to talk to a national selection of registered Republicans and registered Democrats. We did make the decision to break them up and do separate groups for each. Some may think we did this because we want to avoid the discussion turning into a partisan political debate, especially in what is such a divided climate. And that's certainly a benefit of separation, but it's not the core reason. The core reason why we separate Republicans and Democrats is we want to give participants a safe space where they can share their views freely, openly, and with the comfort that comes from knowing they're with largely like-minded people. Because of the Kennedy aspect of the study, it was important that our participants had at least some awareness of him and his campaign. So that did go into the screener. Aside from that, it was registered Republicans, registered Democrats. They had to be voters. They had to have an opinion one way or the other, or the level of awareness on Kennedy. And there was not a geographic limitation. We drew from across the country. And that's how the recruit was designed. We did make the decision to omit independents because we wanted to focus more sharply on the dynamics of the established party bases. This allowed us to more effectively have detailed discussions about their particular candidates and engage things like not just emotional sentiment, but also loyalty when getting into who's more apt to switch their vote to Kennedy or not. So that's how we did the recruit.
Great, thanks for that. And yeah, it's always important that people feel safe so that we can get that honest feedback and those honest opinions for them. Now, I know that previously there have been different sort of project designs. I was able to witness a group in the past where Republicans and Democrats were kind of mixed together. Are you happy with how this project design went and maintaining that separation as far as being able to find out what you wanted to find out?
Yeah, in this instance, it absolutely made sense to separate Republicans and Democrats. And I think we got better groups because of it. I think we got more candid and more forthright responses, and certainly made sense. Yeah.
Great, thanks for that. We're going to dive a little bit deeper now into the results. And before we get into the specific results of this project, Leon, can you give us a little bit of a rundown of the tools that we're going to be talking about as we get into analysis and sort of AI-enabled or assisted reporting?
Yeah, sure, Crystal. So the tools that we're talking about today are within iTrax Real-Time. So iTrax Real-Time is the product that our clients use to run video focus groups, video-based one-on-one interviews, and text chat groups. And about midway through 2023, we had a set of key clients that we work with to get some user feedback for, lack of a better term, beta testing on our video analysis, or what we call our video indexer feature set within iTrax Real-Time. And that use was a great success, which allowed us to have a widespread launch in the early part of January 2024. And so I'm going to share my screen right away here and start to give just a glimpse into some of the things that we're talking about. Crystal, are you able to see my desktop there?
I sure am.
Fantastic. So what you're seeing on my screen is after one of Chad's focus groups. And so, these focus groups, if they ran for 90 minutes, The video analysis and transcripts are ready about 90 minutes after the group concludes. Our software produces high definition equivalent quality audio and video outputs, and so it does take some time for the video, the audio, and the transcripts and the analysis to process, but it's relatively quick. It's, you know, like I said, it's in about the same amount of time that the group ran for. And so what you see on the screen here, of course, is Chad down here in the bottom right-hand corner as our moderator, and we've got our 7 respondents in this main room. You know, if I was to hit play, we can see it playing here. But really what I want to do is draw our attention to this right-hand third of the screen. And if you can see my cursor, it's hovering over 2 tabs. This first one is our timeline tab. And you can see that this will auto scroll as the group is progressing through. Some of the nice features with this timeline is I can do a quick keyword search. If I wanted to search up every time Mr. Biden was referenced, I can see that his name has come up many, many times. And if I choose to click on any one of these pieces of dialogue, you'll note that the video will fast forward to that part of the conversation when it was talking about. So you can see that it's moved to that part. So it's very easy to find, right? So if there's another keyword, key term, you know, talking point that came up, I can run it in that search. We live in global times, right? Many US marketplaces have residents from all over the world, first, second, third generation Americans that still speak another language. If we click on this globe here, you can see that we are able to translate it. So just as a quick example, I'm going to translate this. Oh, sorry, it's because I have Mr. Biden in there. Just 1 second. Sorry, I'll just reshare this right away here.
And it does work. I can vouch. I've used it.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I'll share this again. So you can see here that I do have the ability to translate this into another language very quickly. So as an example in Dutch, right? So let's say you had some key stakeholders, you know, as part of your study design, where English wasn't their first language, or you wanted to produce some reporting outputs in a language that is their first and that is more comfortable with them. Very easy to do. But this Insights tab, this is probably the one that's my most favorite. This is the one that the clients share with me, gives them time back in their day when doing their research and their analysis. If I click on this Insights tab, you can see here that we've got a number of features, and I'm just going to go over these really quickly, Crystal, just in being mindful of time. But you know, I'll check off a couple of the features here. You know, the AI-powered tools in the real-time software in this video indexer will start to do some things for our researchers. It will identify what it believes to be the key topics. You can see politics, politicians, political parties, daily newspapers published in New York City. And you can see in this reel, it's giving us timestamps. So if I was to click on political parties, you'll see the timestamps change. It will also do things like identifying audio effects, silence, maybe laughter. The AI will start to provide a glimpse into what it believes the key words were. And it's not just a comment on prevalence in the discussion. It will also start to pick up on changes in volume of the speaker's voice. Well, right, so if I get more animated and I start to get louder, the AI will pick up on that and start to recognize that that's a point of interest. So, you know, if I check feel bad, you can see that the timestamps change. It will pick up on named entities. So that's locations, people, and brands. So, you know, a lot of our consumer packaged goods clients really love this because they can do a little bit of analysis on both themselves and maybe some other competitors in the marketplace. We can see CNN came up as part of Chad's conversation. And then it will also start to identify when things got emotional in the group. And Chad, I think you had mentioned a little bit of sadness and fear in some of your groups, right? So you can see here that we've got some emotion here, as well as sentiment, positive and negative. So, you know, that's a sort of a quick look at, you know, what's on the showroom floor, so to speak, as far as what our clients are now able to do post data collection in the software.
Very cool. Thanks, Leon. And we did have a question come in from James that I think this is good timing to answer. So James is wondering what languages are available for translation. Can it translate to English from other languages like Punjabi or Cantonese?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Chris. I believe we're up to 34 languages now, and periodically, I would say, you know, every quarter or so that gets reviewed. We do have what we call our knowledge base. We leverage Zendesk to share articles with our software users and clients like Chad to give them helpful tips and tricks. That Zendesk article does have a list of all of the languages that are available, and I can certainly post that into the chat or into the Q&A. But I can say that both of those are currently included as part of our language set in the real-time software.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so let's get back into using this AI analysis. Chad, where do you see the value of using AI analysis to assist in interpreting or confirming things for both political research and qualitative research in general?
A few areas where I see really tremendous value, particularly in the political sphere, but in others. With politics, speed is incredibly important in a campaign environment. Oftentimes, political campaigns have to make the kinds of decisions that corporate entities might make over a period of several months. Political campaigns can make them in hours or overnight. This is where large-scale sentiment analysis and the efficiencies that come with that can be very valuable and really make for a game-changing environment. Now, up until recently, say the last 3-5 years, social media was considered a reliable way to do large-scale sentiment analysis. But now, today, and this is my opinion, the digital landscape has evolved in a way such that the reliability of those social media data points is highly questionable, particularly in politics. In politics, social media is proliferated with bots, fake accounts, and coordinated information, or in some cases misinformation campaigns, which can skew the perceptions of genuine public opinion. This, paired with concerns around algorithms and kind of rage farming, has impacted both the accessibility and the quality of that data. But with qualitative research data, pairing that with sentiment analysis, like what's offered by iTracks, which I use for this study, it offers a much more reliable way to do this using real data gathered by real people in real time, while leveraging the efficiencies and the insight that come from large scale sentiment analysis. This enables campaigns to quickly assess the impact of their message, adjust strategies accordingly, make decisions in real time or off the heels of important events like debates. And with the speed of this digital age, this kind of decision making, to me, it's not even a tactical advantage. It's a must-have for a serious political campaign communicating in this environment.
Okay, great. And was there anything specific about this data that you were surprised by, or that you felt the data helped you confirm or even reveal new insights?
Yeah, definitely. I hit on some of it earlier, but first off, just to reiterate, if I were a Democratic Party strategist, I would be very concerned that it appears the issue set of the election as of now appears to favor Trump. When they're placed in the context of the election, the voters are talking about and thinking about the issues that the Trump campaign wants them to talk about. Again, the lack of enthusiasm demonstrated by both Democrats and Republicans was surprising to me as well. At the end of the day, I think what it means is Americans are going to the polls to vote against something this year, not for something. And while there's often a little bit of anger in political focus groups, there almost always is. People are mad about something. Again, I was struck by the sadness that came through. But what surprised me the most is probably the sentiment around Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And again, here's the big reveal. With so much of the debate right now revolving around whether or not Kennedy pulls from Biden or Kennedy pulls from Trump, a according to our research, I would suggest that registered Democrats are actually significantly more open to voting for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. than registered Republicans. That was a surprise to me. As someone who pays a lot of attention to the political sphere, both for my work and of interest, I suspected registered Democrats might be angry with Kennedy's campaign because they fear him splitting the vote and helping to elect Donald Trump. And while some did express that concern, it wasn't especially prevalent. The Democrats that we spoke to, they appreciated Kennedy's policy stances, particularly when it comes to being anti-war. They were aware of his environmental record, and they didn't seem to take much issue with some of his more controversial positions, like on vaccines. They didn't draw much attention at all. And at the end of the day, while I suspect the majority of the Democrats in our focus group are going to end up voting for President Biden, based on our results, could I imagine RFK Jr. siphoning off one or two or even three of them? I absolutely could, and that on a large scale could dramatically impact the outcome of the election. Republicans were much less open to Kennedy. They view him as a liberal, which they don't like, and some expressed concerns about his ego. We had a little bit of fun asking the Republicans about the prospects of RFK Jr. joining the Trump ticket as vice president, and that was just that was too weird for them to even fathom. So I would say on the biggest surprise for me is the issue set appears to favor Trump. And the other spot where I would say this is a surprise because I was completely wrong in my assumptions were the perceptions around Kennedy, which demonstrates the value, highlights the value of qualitative research and sentiment analysis.
Sure. And well, we can look. I have a couple of clips here. Why don't we check some of those out? So first, I'll show everybody. This is sort of a highlight reel on what the Democrats thought of RFK Jr. And then the one immediately after that will be the Republicans. So we'll start out with the Democrats here when Chad asked them what they thought about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
What does he stand for? What are his policies? What's Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign all about?
I have read that he wants to cut military expenses where others want to put more money toward the military. And he's really into like decreasing child care or providing free child care to certain families.
Is his position on decreasing military spending, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think
it's a good thing.
Again, just give me a show of hands. Who, when it comes to the idea of voting for Robert Kennedy, even considering that it might help elect Donald Trump, who could maybe get there by election day?
You mean who would vote for him by election day?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm
or at least
already
open to it. Who could get?
I'm
Who could
definitely
maybe get there?
open to it. Absolutely.
Everyone. Okay.
Okay, so like you said, a lot of openness there to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And then let's see what the Republicans thought.
I don't know, other than being an anti-vaxxer and very like environmentally, like that's one of his big things. I don't know too much about him, but I get the feeling that he leans more left than right.
Who agrees with Angela that he might lean more left than right? Okay. Are we concerned that support for RFK Jr. could inadvertently draw votes away from Donald Trump?
I actually feel like he's going to take more from Biden, especially like when he announced his vice president pick. That person, very, very left wing, very much appealing to that portion of the population. So, I mean, I think he's polling like at 10% right now. So I feel like it hurts Biden more than Trump. So I'm okay. It's like, keep going, buddy.
I would agree with Eric. I think he's definitely farther left, so he would take more people away from Biden.
Okay, so there again, seeing some of the things that Chad was talking about. Leon, let's come to you. In general, what have you learned from other clients you've worked with about how using those AI analytics tools can impact their reporting process and maybe or maybe not help them in the research process?
Yeah, thanks, Krista. I mean, really two common themes emerge, and one of them Chad has touched on is, first I would categorize it under the heading of efficiency and scalability, right? So, these features are never going to replace somebody that is world class at what they do, like Chad, right? That's the reality of the situation. But the back end of the project is really empowered to allow Chad to process larger volumes of interview data and focus group qualitative data, right? It should allow Chad to process transcripts faster, saving some of his time, perhaps some of his team's resources. And I think really is, being able to identify some of those patterns and sentiments and trends, at a quick glance without necessarily pouring through so much of the transcripts or the audio recordings or even rewatching the videos. I think it can also maybe help minimize some of that interpretation error. Like that's the things that I hear from clients. And it goes back to what Chad has said, right? Speed is of the essence, and these tools promote speed without sacrificing quality. I think the other most common theme is the topic of bias, right? And so making sure, that you can do some pressure testing against making sure that, you or your internal team aren't exhibiting any bias in your analysis, right? So the AI can help to get to some of that unbiased analysis of your qualitative data, maybe minimizing some of the influence of the research team's bias going into a certain project or study type. Really, it's intended to analyze data objectively, identifying insights, sentiments, themes, topics, keywords based solely on the content of the data rather than subjective interpretations. And so, it's really there to help support identifications of those patterns and different relationships across some of the groups that you're working with on your project.
Yeah, thanks. That all makes sense. And I would have to imagine as impartial as we try to be, or as moderators would try to be, especially when it comes to something like politics, people have their own leanings. So you'd want to make sure that that data tells you, was this really a sadder seeming group, or was it my perception? Or did they really talk all that much about this topic, or was it my perception? So as someone interested in research, it seems like a really valuable tool to me. I am going to now show off something that I'm finding quite exciting, and then we're going to come to some more questions that people have had coming in here through the Q&A. So make sure you submit your questions if you haven't already, and we'll get to answering them right after I show you what I'm going to show you here. So Leon shared a on his screen what our AI reporting tools currently look like in iTracks. That is what we have in the office been referring to as sort of phase one of this AI-enabled reporting process. Later this summer, we will be releasing phase two, and I have a little preview of what the capabilities for that are going to look like. So there's two main features that I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you the visualization tools that'll be coming out, as well as the highlight reels that will be coming out. And again, this is just a preview, so don't worry if you're in your iTracks platform and you can't find these. These are going to be coming out later this summer. So first we have customizable visualizations. So all of this will be sort of AI enabled or AI supported, and then customizable by you, the researcher. So think of it more as like an assistant to up your efficiency when you're trying to create these visualizations and that reporting. So it will be based on the video transcripts, that timeline that Leon was showing you, that's translatable into all of those different languages. And what the AI can do is automatically identify keywords, topics, sentiments, named entities, and that's the data set that it is able to pull from that you can then create visualizations from. So in this instance here on the screen, we have a word cloud that's been created, but there are all sorts of different options. There's tables, there's bar charts, there's graphs, there's pie charts, and you can use the AI sort of as a starting point, and then totally customize which data you are having it help you to visualize. So that means that you can do it across the whole project. So in our project, we had multiple groups. We had the Republicans and we had the Democrats. You could visualize data across all of those grouped together, or you could pick a certain activity. So you'll see on the screen here, it says select activities, and then you can choose which activities from the project you want included in this specific visualization, and you can do as many as you want. You'll see that the AI also gives you a starting point as far as the keywords or the emotions or the topics that you're trying to visualize. But again, that is totally customizable, so that you can use your expertise as the researcher, knowing what it is you're trying to report on, to choose the words or the topics that are going to be most pertinent and worth showing off. So in this instance, we have a word cloud happening, and we've got this is like a group that was done about cereal, and you can see words like marshmallow and flakes and things that are about cereal, but then you see the word all right, and maybe that's just a vocal tick or something, and you don't want that included in your word cloud, so you get rid of it, and then it is no longer included. You've also got customizability as far as colors, if you want to match branding, and you can decide as well who can edit this, who can download it, who can see it. So that is all up to you as the researcher. So that's the visualizations. And then the second thing I want to show you are the highlight reels. And this is something that I know as a marketer, I'm really, really, really excited about, but also is going to be wonderful for all of our research clients to use. And this is the ability to create highlight reels. So again, the AI is helping you with a starting point. It's going through the transcripts from the videos, and it's identifying keywords that it thinks you might want to make highlight reels about. And then again, you can completely customize it. So you can choose which activity do I want to pull a video or a highlight reel from? Do I want the group recording, which are the kind of recordings that we've been watching throughout this webinar where everyone's in them? Or do I want to pull from a single stream video and have it there in high definition so that we can specifically look at something that Tim said? It'll give you the starting point for the clips, but then you completely customize them as far as start point and end point with the timestamps, and again, you can do as many as you want. So just a couple of features that I'm really excited that our development team is working on, that again, we will be releasing later this summer. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we will come to the final questions that we have had roll in here. Before I do that, Chad or Leon, anything that you would like to add, or anything that you were hoping to talk about or mention that we didn't get to?
Yeah, for me, just expressing gratitude to Chad and his partnership, particularly as it relates to this study in today's webinar. I mean, he's fantastic to work with, and we always get a chance to learn a lot from him and his experience when we approach things like this.
Okay, great. So I would echo that. Thank you very much, Chad. And let's move into some more questions here. So someone has asked us, how do you manage groupthink in political groups?
It's an important question. Generally speaking, the same ways you manage groupthink in a non-political focus group. It's very important that you encourage, on the outset, you encourage people to share their honest opinions. You try to create a safe space. You try to encourage respect across participants. Generally speaking, though, in my experience, political focus groups are, in all the focus groups I do, I don't encounter all that much groupthink in political focus groups as I do in some other topics. Generally speaking, if somebody has passed a screener and so that they're capable and qualified and interested in talking about politics, they don't usually have a problem sharing their opinion. When it is an issue, one of the things that I try to do tactically is I sometimes try to adopt the devil's advocate role. When I think there's a little bit of groupthink happening, I might provocate a little bit, and I do that for the purpose of seeing if I can trigger other people in the group to either agree with me or disagree with me. So moderation skill is part of it too.
Hey, thank you for that. Russell has asked a couple questions about the project design. I believe I know the answer, but I will pose them to you, Chad. Did you do a wider quant baseline or have semi-structured questions in the recruit? And he's also wondering about general project size.
Okay. We did not do a baseline quant study. The recruit itself captured the general demographic information you would for a group like this, as well as some of the qualifying things we want to know about, opinions on candidate, which were part of the study. And then we asked about voting history, we asked about party affiliation and the like. But I'll take a step back and answer the question a little bit more broadly. For me, the purpose of qualitative research in political in a political environment is not always, or not necessarily, to draw broad conclusions that I can translate to an entire population. More often than not, it's to identify areas for future research, and that may include quantitative research, or to test themes that you may not be able to test quantitatively. With the work we did with this group, it would be a mistake for anyone to run with this and assume you can immediately translate it into some big national result. But what you would be able to do, if you were the Biden campaign, for example, you've identified some areas that might require some decision making, some further analysis on why Kennedy Jr. is appealing to a certain set of your voting pool, which you could then use that to make further decisions, do further research, adjust your marketing, what have you. So because of that philosophy, I've actually changed my mind the last couple of years. I used to use quantitative research to establish the baseline, and then go out and use quant to support it, essentially find out what people think and then figure out why they think it. In politics, I've been doing the reverse lately, where we actually we do qualitative research first to identify areas to test quantitatively, in addition to the typical horse race, kind of who's up and who's down stuff. That's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think that gets at it.
No, and it all makes sense. And it actually, so when you speak of moving to a qual to quant sort of design, so that you can find out what to ask, that is something we've been hearing more of lately. And I think we had a webinar a couple months ago specifically on that exact topic with an academic collaborator of ours who had also expressed the benefits of using that sort of qual to quant methodology to find out what it is you don't know, and then to confirm it or figure out quantifiably how much that applies. And then sort of on that topic, we did have a comment about are these focus groups, are you interpreting them as projectable to the general population, or is this more about finding out what possible responses could be, especially considering the small sample size?
As if I take off my researcher hat and put on my political strategist hat, I'm not going to run with this study and say it's indicative of a broad national result. I am going to have a look at it and go, okay, here are a couple of things that I didn't expect, and here are a few vulnerabilities that I didn't realize that I had. And I'm either going to identify specific areas for the research, or I'm going to make decisions that might help shore up these things. I mean, if I were actually running a campaign for President of the United States, I would immediately go to the battleground states with much more targeted groups, and I'd have much greater resources, and I'd further test some of these things, and then I would solidify them quantitatively, and then I would make decisions on how to adjust.
Great, thanks. Another question about the technical aspect. Are these same AI tools all available within the iTracks real-time for shop-alongs? This has been shown within the focus group software, but I just want to verify. So yes, so real-time for shop-alongs, you're probably using it in interview mode, but same thing. So right now it is available for our annual subscribers, in the form that Leon showed in the sort of phase 1 form. And it will be available also again for shop-alongs in the phase 2 form that I was able to show. And will actually be especially valuable because you'll be able to do it project-wide and find, you know, similarities and things that came up in all of your interviews. So short answer, yes, to annual subscribers. Okay, do we have any more questions coming in? I have some more questions coming in about specific features, which we are really, really excited about. What I can do is promise to pass these suggestions and these questions along to our development team. One nice thing about developing in-house is that we do have some flexibility, and we are always looking for feedback from our clients and from the research community on what it is that they would find useful. So if you have something specific that you think would be wonderful or useful to you as a researcher, please send that our way and we can forward that on to the development team. Any other questions coming in? We have one that came in early. So in India, elections are going on as are political campaigns. How important is it to convey the proper agenda to understand the vote and contestant bridge? And I'll throw that one to you, Chad.
Okay, that's a big question, and that's a more of a political question than a research question, but there's a research component to it. I think what you want to convey in a political campaign is a narrative. You want to tell a story over the course of an election campaign. You want to frame that story and control that story. Storytelling is and always has been the most powerful way to persuade people. Since the dawn of communicative ability. So controlling the agenda, kind of, but it's more about controlling the narrative, and it's more about controlling what the election is about. If you are able to decide the issues frame of the election, if you're the person who's driving what people are talking about every day and you're shaping what the election is about, for lack of a better term, then your chances of winning it go way up. Research and qualitative research is one of the tools in the toolbox, one of the best tools in the toolbox to help you understand the context you're operating in, so you can decide what the election is going to be about and develop that winning narrative. Gosh, we could talk for hours on that, but in a nutshell, that's the most important thing is controlling what the election's about.
Great, thanks for that. Okay, so with that, I believe we have gone through our questions here and are going to wrap up. Any final comments from either of you two? Last call.
I just want to thank iTracks for this great tool. I'm very excited about what's coming next and the stuff that you showed us, Crystal. And this was great. And again, I said it before, I said it privately, I'll say it publicly, the recruit involved in this study as well was really, really great.
Great, thanks. Yes, shout out to Adam, who was on the iTracks team, who was able to do that recruit and find participants who engaged in some really, really interesting conversation. Always a pleasure, Chad, to collaborate with you. Thanks again for joining us today, and to you, Leon. So a couple more people asked about the recording. Yes, we will be sending that recording out, and I'm going to do my best to get it out by end of day. With that, we will wrap up this webinar and wish everyone a wonderful afternoon and rest of their week, and we hope to see you next time as well. Bye.
Hi, everyone.